I power walked down to that pile of gummy bears and back. I should probably set the pile out further, or closer, so I can get at them.
So I can get at them. What up, pups? Welcome to another episode of the Power Up Podcast. I am just another humble lad that takes a gander of what's happening in the old pop culture news. Try to stay on top of things. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Oh, I know all too well what you mean exactly.
But we like to look at pop culture news, whether it's good, bad, ugly, and sometimes I'll even dive into the spiritual element of stuff too, since I like talking about scripture and stuff. Love studying that stuff. But my goal is to try to rekindle that nostalgia of spirit, that flame, because I think it is dying because there's a bunch of woke garbage inside of video games, anime, manga, whatever you loved in the past. It's being infested, and I think we're doing a good job pushing it out and ripping out the weeds. But we got to at least pay attention to what's happening here and just remind folks that everything that they say, like diversity and stuff, it was all there in the past. Like it was already there. It's not their version and stuff. But with that being said, super excited to have my special guest on tonight, SMASHJT. What's up, Smash? How you doing?
It is always an honor. Thank you so much for having me, Greg. I'm doing well. I've been, as we spoke in the pre-show a little bit, I've been very busy. I think we all have been. It's funny the surrounding circumstances with the election, even though it really on a grand scale doesn't impact our lives at all. It's
Mhm.
just the overwhelming aura of it has a direct impact on everyone's lives. It's funny how it works. Uh,
Yeah. Did you stay up really late? And
yeah, no, I was live streaming the whole thing. I was up till almost 2 a.m. West Coast time last night. So
that's right. I think I did see you because I was hanging with some friends that were online, and I was like, "Oh,
yeah,
Smash is on." So,
yeah.
but
No, it was popping too. We had almost 1,000 people in there. It was crazy.
oh, nice.
Yeah,
Congrats, man. Congrats.
yeah. No, it was wild.
Well, usually whenever I have a first-time guest on, I usually just like to just take the time to get to know the person. Tip my hat to them for all the hard work that they do because I'm enjoying what you see, what you've been doing. I've been trying my best to, see, branch out, reach a lot of people, talk to them, see how they're doing, and just compliment them on the work that you're doing. And I saw you pop up. I think I first came across you when you were on Side Scrollers podcast, and from there looked at to it and liked what you're doing, liked what you had to say, and obviously my condolences for having to go through a lawsuit, 100% garbage and all that stuff to a person who looks like they put their face out with a fire or put a fire out with their face, but
Right,
whatever.
right, right. No, I know what you
That's
meant.
that's my dyslexia popping in.
Yeah,
And
yep, yeah. No, I've been
but
there.
yeah, so yeah, like I said, just want to get to know you and whatnot. I took a look at your website, obviously, and have all of Smash JT's stuff in the description below. So check him out, support him however you can and stuff. And I noticed well, this was interesting too, because I'm always curious on how people get into the video game industry. Because it says here you were a quality assurance tester for Sony Online Entertainment. So, like, is that something to where you like saw an advertisement or something and you applied there or something, or like kind of how did that come about?
So, I guess I'll try to give the short version. There's no real short version of it. So get comfortable. Uh, I uh, I grew up in Massachusetts and
Mhm.
graduated college and was living at home with the parents and was looking for like a place to live. I'm like, I can't deal with living with my parents. It was driving me insane, as I'm sure most people could relate to that. And I was looking at the apartments to rent, and it was like insanely expensive. And I'm like, this is crazy. Why is it so much money to live in the Boston area? And based off of the pay that you get. And I was like, I always wanted to like visit California, like for an extended period of time, potentially live out there because I used to go all the time when I was younger for vacations and stuff. And I remember one time when I went out to San Diego, I was like probably 11 or 12 years old, and I said to my dad, I'm like, people live here? Because I'm like, to me, it was like this is like a vacation 24/7, 365. And he's like, yeah, no, some people live here. I was like, why doesn't everyone, like, this is weird. Why don't we live here? This is amazing. Perfect weather, amazing sights. It was just beautiful. And as I got older, I was like, also the beautiful women too. There's a lot of beneficial things to the San Diego area. And I was like, I looked at the places to rent in San Diego, and I was like, well, it's the relatively same price as Boston. Why not try my hand? Because I don't have anything tying me down. There's nothing like, oh, I have to stay here the rest of my life. So, long story short, I drove out 3,000 miles. I actually moved out here with one of my buddies I met when I was working at Blue Cross and Blue Shield because we both had the same feeling. We both didn't want to live there. And we're like, yeah, let's check it out. So it was good to have a roommate and split the rent because it was super expensive. But I moved out with about $10,000, and first, last, and the actual rent, and then food, and then buying a bed and a couch and TV, and like that money was gone so fast, even back then. And I was like, man, I need to find a job. I just graduated college, so at least I have like something on my resume. And I was like looking at Craigslist, and I saw that it had a job advertisement for a game tester. And I was like, "Oh, that would be hysterical if I was a game tester." I always wanted my name in the end credits, but I never thought like I'd actually be in a position to do it. So I was like, "Sure, I guess," because I didn't want to work at like a grocery store or something. I didn't want like a super professional bank job because I'm like, no, I just moved out to California. I don't want something boring. So I was like, I love video games. Why not try my hand? And yeah, long story short, I went for the interview, got the job, and spent about 2.5 years at Sony Online Entertainment. I did about a year and a half of QA testing, and then I did a year of Game Master, which is the in-game customer support for Everquest. And that was a lot of fun in itself too. And then from that, I actually was talking to my recruiter. That it was a temp recruiter, a temp agency that just got me the job and had me there for a while. And I was like, I don't know how long this job is going to last because it feels very uncertain. It doesn't pay very much, and it just feels like I could be let go any day for like over 2 years. It feels like that every day you go in, you don't know
Oh,
your job the next
gotta
day.
be. Oh, that sounds like a terrible feeling just to
Oh,
have that
terrible. Very
looming over your
stressful.
head. Ugh.
And you got crunch time. You're working awful hours. You're have to be available all the time at the most oddest hours. You get paid minimum wage. It was back then. It was $10 an hour. It was brutal because San Diego was very expensive. So even when I was making the money, I was still losing a net amount of money on a weekly basis just to pay bills. So it wasn't even enough to get me by. It was just slowing the bleed of the money that I had, which is crazy when you think about it. So I asked her if there was like any openings that they had, because I would really, I had an interest in working as a recruiter and in the game industry. And she was like, yeah, we're actually expanding, this, that, the other. There was perfect timing. She's like, I'll forward your information to my boss and we'll interview. And then I got the job to be the recruiter at the temp agency from there. So I went from being the QA tester and then the game master to being the recruiter. And I fit the role perfectly because I had the experience of the actual positions that they were hiring for. So they're like, you're perfect. You have the college degree. You have the experience of doing this low level job for a long period of time. You like video games, because that's the other thing. None of these people working at the game company, at the recruiting company, liked video games. They didn't give a shit about games. None of them even played video games. They just did it like a job. And I was like, this is wild to me. I was like, I love it. So I would go to work as a recruiter, and my interviews would just be straight up talking to people about like, what are your favorite games? Have you ever found any glitches? Why do you like that game? Like, that was what my day consisted of. It was awesome.
Wow, that's
So I mean,
crazy.
bringing it full circle to now,
Mhm.
because I'm sure you're probably going to ask this. Is the all people always give the follow up question, like, why did you start your YouTube channel? It's like, well, I eventually got away from the game industry, and I always felt like that was a missing part of my life, and I was like, YouTube is a way to get that back into it because I didn't live around any of my friends from college that played games. I moved out here. I was kind of like, I met some friends. I had plenty of friends out here, but none of them are really gamers, so I could never really talk about gaming with them. And I was like, why not start a YouTube channel? Maybe meet some people, chat gaming, and that way I'll have that portion of my life being fulfilled. So that's how I got to this.
Wow. That's an amazing story too. It just to me, it's crazy. Like Craigslist, like
Yeah,
that's where you find it. And
back then, God only knows where it is now, but
well, I've seen some stuff on like Indeed,
Mhm.
Monster or and ZipRecruiter and all that
Yep,
stuff.
yep.
I've seen some of that stuff pop up. So, so during this whole time, around what year was that?
That was around 2008, I think 2007, 2008, 2009, that period, and then recruiting 2009, 2010. Um, Around that period of time. And then I got away from it. Like I said, I went to being a admissions counselor, not counselor, admissions advisor or whatever. It was just a fancy name they put on being a sales rep, trying to get people to
Mhm.
go to a for-profit school. It was like, I never liked it. I've told people this before. Like I did it because it was pretty good money, but I was like, it felt super scummy. And I'm like, this is not, I don't, you know what I mean? Like it's weird. You do stuff and you work in sales. Sales is always pretty scummy unless it's like something you really believe in. Um, and it was I never felt comfortable with it because I felt like yes, some people needed it, but it just didn't feel right for me. So I eventually got out of that industry as well, thankfully, and I came back full circle to, like I said, do the channel. Um, but people always ask too, they're like, how did you get your channel name? And that was one of the thing. Like, let me ask you, because I know you're asking me the question, but how'd you
Yeah.
get your name, Greg?
Oh, mine is quite a doozy because, and by doozy, I mean it's incredibly lame. I was lying in my bed
Hmm.
and I literally just sat there and I said, I know some people like having that name can make you stand out,
Hmm.
sort of thing. So you gotta bunker down, or there's like some people who just have a it's their real name, but it's like a nice solid name, like Andrew WK, for example. Like it's
Yeah.
just like something like that. I literally looked up what rhymes with Greg, and I saw leg, peg, all that stuff, and then I saw keg, and one of the things associated with it was powder keg Greg, and I was like, powder keg Greg. I really like the sound of that, and that's kind of interesting, and that can be another thing we'll talk about here in a second, because I saw on your site that inspiration from like the angry video game nerd and stuff like that. So I wanted to, at the time, create a character who is ridiculously volatile and have that extreme ebb and flow of the taking it to the extreme. Those gamers that you see, absolute, like they're loving this game, they love this game, they're playing it, something goes wrong and they completely freak out, like to the T, and then declaring like, I'm never fucking playing this game again, it's a piece of shit, I'm not
Yep.
doing it. But then
Yep.
just like 10 minutes later, it's like they forgot what they were
You get
complaining
back to
about,
it. Yep. Yep.
and just go back at it. So I had powder keg right for a while, which I can technically still be a powder keg because I can get pretty mad at
Right.
times.
Right.
But I changed it to power keg Greg because um at a more personal level, I had a lot of anger built up and stuff like that, and it was just that awakening of realizing that a lot of the things that I was carrying and that bitterness, I needed to let it go. I was trying to use powder keg as a way to channel it, sort of
Mhm.
thing, but I ultimately decided, like, just power keg, like an energy barrel, like that power barrel that you get in like a video game like Mega Man or something,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you pick it up. That's when I switched it to, and I wanted to be positive, but more so be genuine, be transparent, because that's what I'm seeing people connect with the most. I never understood the the characters. I shouldn't say characters, but the people out there who you can clearly tell there's that online persona. You can even hear it in the voice too, like the announcer type voice of like,
Mhm.
"Hey, what's going on, guys?" and stuff. And it's like I've tried that. Like you cannot keep that on forever, but some people can. But then you see later on down the road, they're like, "Yeah, it felt like I just wasn't myself." And it was like, just be yourself to begin with, because especially nowadays, and like what you're talking about, when you're trying to grow a channel, people want that genuine
Mhm.
authenticity.
Yeah, I get that a lot too. People, I've even had people come like make comments, say like, "Oh man, like uh, you are really resonating with me with the message of your videos, and you've been so consistent with it for such a long time that I know you're not faking it." I'm like, yeah, hell, I should be working at Hollywood if I'm faking this. I don't know how to fake it.
That's what I never understood. I personally never understood the mentality of fake it till you make it, because to me, I get what it's saying, but to me, it's always felt like I've struggled with connecting with people, and that is partly just of who I am as a person, because I have ADHD and depression, and
Mhm,
what is it, like level 1 of Asperger's, very very sociable, like highly sociable thing, but it's still hard for me to connect with people,
mhm.
like in the beginning, because once I can get used to it. But that was growing up as well, so you also have your emotions that you're balancing out. you know, you're
Mhm.
completely different from being, right now, a 37-year-old compared to like a 21-year-old.
Oh yeah.
Your
Oh yeah.
your emotions are still developing and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was just something to where, and again, I grew up with a lot of, like, I was very upset with a lot of stuff because I was bullied as a kid too. So a lot of that bitterness I carried around, and it's just seeing people just being who they are and stuff. It was freeing to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. No, that's actually the big benefit to YouTube is exactly that. You can say what you want to say, put yourself out there. If people don't like it, fuck them. And if they do,
Mhm.
great. Like, yeah, that's the one thing that I've had people ask me, like, how do you deal with the negativity, the backlash? You have so many people that just, for whatever reason, they just hate you. They just want to see your life just destroyed. They follow you just to laugh at you. Like, how do you deal with it? It's like, I don't care. Like, what if they don't like me? They don't like. I'm not going to make everyone like me. And I used to make that mistake when I first started. I didn't want to, crack any eggs. I was like,
S-
let's just
sa-
be friends
Same
with
here.
everyone. Right, right.
Same
And
here.
and you get to the point where you're like, no, fuck it. Like, if I can't be me, then why am I doing this? If I'm just gonna
Exactly.
fake it, why you're living a lie. It's like, why would you do that? Which actually brings me full circle to the name
Mhm.
of Smash JT, because initially the the first game that I worked on at Sony was called Cash Guns Chaos. That was the game that I tested. That's what they hired me on for, and its claim to fame was being the very first downloadable title on the PlayStation. Hold on a second.
Uh-oh. You all right on
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Yeah.
All right, sorry about that.
Mhm.
Um, so the very first game that I tested was a game called Cash Guns Chaos, and it was notable for being the very first downloadable title on the PlayStation 3. And back when I was QA testing it, I had a PlayStation 3 at my cubicle before they were out, before they showed them to anyone. We weren't allowed to take pictures of them because you get fired if it ever got out. Like, it was really like CIA level
Dang.
security. It was crazy. And I was like, this is so badass to go into work and have a video game system on my desk. I'm like, what kind of professional environment has that?
Was it that OG
Oh yeah,
60
it was the piano. It was the big one. It was huge.
with the emotion, with the innards, the emotion chip?
Yep, had everything.
Oh,
It was a beast. Thing
oh.
probably weighed like 10 pounds, 20 pounds. It was huge. It was, yeah.
Mhm.
But it was badass. It was such a badass system for the time. Um, and that game came out. It was basically a top-down shooter, arena shooter, similar to Smash TV, which I don't know if you played Smash TV. A lot of people. You're not familiar with it? Okay.
No.
So Smash TV is like an old arcade game. It came out for the NES as well. And I was like, when I named my channel, I named it Cash Guns Chaos, and one of my buddies was like, "Yeah, you probably shouldn't use like guns in the name because YouTube might like suppress you." Like this is like years ago, and
Mm.
he made a good point. So I was like, okay, I need to think of another name for my channel, and that ended up being I was like, it's like Smash TV, so why don't I change it to Smash? And I was like, oh, my initials, JT, because I can put my initials in the channel, so that, like you were saying, putting your name in the channel is important. It makes you stand out if people know who you are from that. So that's how it got to be the name Smash JT.
Nice. Nice. No, I'm trying to rack my brain with the Smash TV. You said it was for NES, correct?
Yep, NES and arcade.
Okay. That's because I grew up with an NES. I was from 1988. That was when I was born, but obviously grew up in the 90s. I remember my first console
Well,
was
that Super Smash TV on the Super Nintendo, and it was Total Carnage. Total Carnage was another one on Super Nintendo. You ever play that one?
I haven't played it, but those names I'm familiar with, so
Okay,
that
yeah.
makes
So
sense. Yeah.
they're like those two.
Yeah, my gaming collection is an interesting one because I played some classics, but a lot that you could say should be a classic from whichever era. I've
Mhm.
actually haven't really played, like a lot of the Final Fantasy OG series. Never played, but
Oh, they're
because I
so
al-
good. Final Fantasy
so
3 and 2 on the Super Nintendo were so good.
that's what I'm so I don't know why I felt like I developed a of not so much of a fear, but of a because I had friends who would play it, and I would see them be grinding and farming, and I was like the concept of leveling up enough so that instead of getting your ass kicked like super quickly, it's now, well, now you'll slightly live a little bit longer. And it was like how much
That wasn't
time do I have to put in? So I
right.
I
That wasn't like
foolishly
enjoyable for you. That's not
yeah.
it.
Well,
Yeah.
it's because I actually do like repetition, and I think that's where I just got a misconception of
Mhm.
something of
Yeah.
where because now, but that's kind of the beauty of it when I do game streaming is I can now share my first time experience with these original games and stuff too. Because I don't mind remakes,
Mhm.
but they need to be Shadow of Colossus remake.
Right. They have to be worth it. Yeah.
They have to be worth it. Like
100%.
the new Silent Hill 2 remake is ugh. Take away
Right.
the name Silent Hill 2, and to me, it's
What
just
do you have? Yeah, you're right.
your average stuff. Because I played the OG. That one was freaky. So,
Right. Right.
but yeah, I usually hold up to the standards with the remake. And now, obviously, but nowadays, even a remake, even a remaster, like just expect it to be bastardized in some way, shape, and form because they're
Mhm.
not.
Well, they gotta inject political messaging and everything now too, which is really unfortunate. But that's something that I saw when I was at Sony, that the direction of the game industry was slowly rolling down that
That's
direction.
That's exactly why I asked you of when you got in because I've had people in the voice acting industry and
Mhm.
the video game industry. I would always ask them, I'm like, did you guys see this change of what's happening? And they're like, we saw it, but it was kept at bay or it was kept behind the scenes, you know. But yeah,
Or it
you
was
saw.
more of like a live and let live. It's not hurting anyone. Just let people do what they want to do, and then slowly, insidiously,
Yeah,
they'd start making decisions, and then they'd start dying on those hills, being like, no, this has to be in there now. And it's like, what are
Wow.
we doing? What the hell are we doing with the games here? This is not okay. It's not okay.
And you were saying some people, you said earlier, and it could have just been the, obviously the recruits and stuff, but like how you said, they didn't understand video games and stuff. Like, were there
Mhm.
people when you were there where it was like,
Well,
they-
it's a little different because like it was a temp agency. So
Hmm,
our job was really just to find candidates to present to Sony and
uh,
other companies. So we'd find people that were okay with the amount of pay, that could show up every day, and that met the minimum qualifications that Sony had. And we'd get their information, get their W-2s, get everything set up, and then have them do their background checks and then present them to Sony. And then Sony would also do another interview with them to make sure they actually fit with them. And the gamers at Sony and Square Enix and Nexon, NHN, Rockstar, Midway, all these companies that I work with would all that was the process. Is it would basically be we were screening them and then present them. But that's why it worked really well for me because I worked at Sony, so they all knew me. So when I interviewed the people, I knew the people at Sony. So I had a good connection established with them already. Like, okay, this guy's good. Here's why I like him. I think you're gonna like him too. And then they'd basically be like, okay, yeah, they if you like them, we're good with them. Like that was basically it saved them a lot of trouble. But beforehand, it was more they had a microscope on him.
wow. So I also saw that you had what's a Tandy computer?
Yeah. That I think that predated the Commodore 64. It was basically a keyboard with
Hmm.
a gigantic cartridge slot on the side of it, and it could actually play cartridges. One of the games was a game called Panic Button. That was like one of the first games I ever played. It was basically an automated factory of just cakes being moved, and you had to like drop the cakes on them as they were
Oh,
moving without missing. It
nice.
was actually pretty advanced for the time and a lot of fun. Like you can look on YouTube for Tandy Panic Button, and you can actually like see videos of it. It's wild what the games used to be like and how far they've come. But
Hmm.
but the hooks and why you play them are still very similar to what they were 35 years ago.
So that was like your introduction, you said, pretty much to video
Yeah,
games, and then
Tandy, Commodore 64, Atari 2600, and then the NES. Yeah.
yeah, a little bit the Commodore and the Atari. That was a little bit before me. I grew up with
Well,
someone
it
who.
was to be fair, it was before me too.
Mhm,
My brother, I was youngest in my family, so my brothers had everything. They were older. Like I was probably
gotcha.
5, 6, 7 years old. Like I was super young, 5 years old, didn't know what I was doing, and I had a Tandy from them, and I was like, okay, I'll play with this because I see them playing with it.
I feel like that's almost like even better when you have more siblings that
Yep.
are, and you're the youngest one, because then you grow up along with it, even though like around that time, you like for me, I was again 88, but the Nintendo was already out, and then you played a little bit more growing up. But then I remember growing up with the Sega Genesis. That's what my
Right.
parents got me,
Right.
and
Right.
that
Right.
one. Interestingly enough, I don't. Funny enough that I had the Sega and I still have my OG Sega too, still running like a champ.
Yeah. Oh
Um,
yeah. Yeah. Those things are great.
dude, built like a beast. But
Hmm.
for some reason, like I don't remember owning Sonic because obviously that game was packaged in, unless we got rid of it and stuff. I'll tell you
Interesting.
what, I was so sad when thinking back of when, because my parents didn't know when the Nintendo finally kicked the bucket, because it's
Hmm.
the side loader and they don't know where to take it to get it fixed, and then
Right.
just
Right.
sadly throwing it away or something, and then you
Oh,
just have the
jeez.
games. And we actually kept like the books, the
Yep.
case, the
Yep. Yep.
manual, and just selling it or giving it to people who had a working Nintendo. It's like, oh man.
Well,
Uh,
back then they were just like no one it's just funny, no one ever thought of a secondary market. No one thought about the future. They're just like this is what life is. They don't think, oh, there'll be generations of games where realistic graphics and complete like that was never even part of the equation. It was just the living in the moment, which is kind of I think something that's been lost. No one lives in the moment anymore. They're always, what's next? What's the future? It's like, you know what I mean?
No, I know exactly what you mean too. Because to me, I mentioned this on a past couple of shows too, but like to me, I brought it up again because frickin' Dragon Age was like the Golden Awards or the Golden Joystick Awards are like, oh, this is Ultimate Game of the Year
Yeah,
contender, and
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just like, oh my gosh. And to me, it goes into that category of like the graphics and stuff like that. Like to me, I'm just like, dude, if your graphics aren't good nowadays, like you got a major problem happening. Because to me, it's like
Well,
I don't really think you can push the graphics anymore. I mean, I'm me personally, I haven't even moved over to 4K because I'm just
right,
like,
right. That's what I'm saying. Like it's more the gameplay matters more now because the graphics are so ubiquitous that it's like who who cares? Like, sure, if you're doing like a massive AAA banger like Last of Us, Spider-Man, Halo Infinite, like where it's a massive studio putting together a huge project. Um, the expectations for gamers are typically in check. They're not like when Nintendo comes out with a Mario game, they know exactly what they're going to get. They know the graphics are not going to be on par with what Sony and Microsoft are doing, and that's totally fine because that's not why they're buying it. They're buying it for a great game experience.
Scotty, what's up? Says, yo, great to see Smash JT on the stream. How is everyone? We are
It's-
doing good. Thank you. How are you? Having a good old time after the old election? That was fun.
oh yeah, what a wild night.
I think I saw you posted a tweet on obviously on X.
Mhm.
I was it was about the new Mario and Luigi Superstar game,
Yeah.
Brothership. Did you say it was like kind of lacking a little bit?
Well, the
Or
tweet
what?
was about it was a comment on IGN giving it a 5 out of 10, and
Yeah.
people are railing on IGN saying, "Oh, they just, want to hate on Nintendo because it's not a Sony game or whatever, whatever." And I'm just like, these people didn't read the review. Like the review, I would have given it a 5 out of 10 as well. Like based off what the review says, I'm like, yeah, it's got too much hand holding, too much
That's yeah.
choppiness. There's the storyline is repeated over and over throughout the game. It's too basic, simplistic. You blow right through the enemies. It's not hard. There's no challenge. If you do mess up, it puts you right back to where you were. There's no um, like death penalty. It's just the game itself just struck me as just too kiddie to kid gloves. Like if you're
Dang.
6 years old and playing it, I'm sure you'd love it, But the problem is, it's like uh, I play Mario games for a challenge. And
Mhm,
back in the day, I remember playing the original Super Mario Brothers. Like I remember the
mhm.
first time I picked up the controller. I remember the first time I played it. And I remember thinking like it was so challenging. It was so hard, but it made me want to try that much harder to be able to see how much further I could get to explore the world. And I feel like gaming turned into this, let's just blow through it to give them the next game. And it's like chew it in and spit it out type experience instead of savoring it and enjoying it forever. It's sad, actually.
Yeah, I'm actually quite sad because I was seeing people doing it and I saw your post about it and you were like, yeah, I read the article and I was like, and I'd give it a 5.2 and I was like,
Mhm.
fuck. I was gonna get this game because I
Oh,
literally
dude, I was too. I'm a huge Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga fan. Like
me
huge.
too. I
Yeah,
literally just finished the last game and I was like,
it's so good.
right when Brothership was announced, I was like, yes, this is perfect. And then I
Dude, when
was
I
like,
saw it got announced on the Nintendo Direct, I was freaking out. I was like, "Yeah!" And then I saw
oh
the review. I'm like,
no, no. That's
right."
why I had to ask to clarify if
Yeah.
what you said was true. And I was
I,
sad.
I I wish it wasn't. I hope I'm wrong. I haven't played it. But the problem is like
Yeah.
I have no intent to play it now because I'm like it's just going to be one of those generic, almost like Paper Mario sticker. You
I
remember this?
skipped
Yeah, everyone skipped that one because
Yeah,
the
I
reviews
skipped
were
that
like
one.
it was too
But
easy.
I played Super Paper Mario, and I think that was the last one and then I played Origami King, but at that
Yeah,
point I liked.
I was okay with Origami King. That was all right. I mean, I beat it. I got through it, but it was kind of
Mhm.
it kind of felt like a chore at some point. But
I agree. Yeah,
yeah,
I did enjoy the one, oh, Babanosuke Sama, like the one lady that like kept changing like the names all the time. I love
the
that one.
oh yeah. That was funny.
But yeah, I felt the same way too, and I think it's because I was expecting, because you had Paper Mario, then you had Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, and it had that RPG element to it,
Mm.
and then it branched off into the Mario and Luigi series, and then they
And,
kind of did
and
their
that
own.
was that's what the travesty with all of it is the Mario and Luigi series was so good, but the company making it is a different company. There's different people that put it together now, and it didn't retain the same magic that the original one did based off of the reviews, which I'm inclined to believe based off of how the review is written is those are the complaints that I would have if it would fall into the pitfalls that it did. And I'm like, Eesh, that's not good. That's not good.
Shoot. Well,
Yeah.
that makes me very sad.
Yeah.
Um, I am curious though, because we did talk about it a little bit earlier when you asked me like kind of how I got my name, and that was like, oh, being inspired by the the angry video game nerd, and
Mhm,
you have listed on your website Metal Jesus Rock, and I haven't heard
mhm.
of Video Game Donkey. That's a new one to me. But like, when did you kind of discover those?
Well, Video Game Donkey is actually someone I discovered after, like, not after I started the channel. I really got into him after I started the channel. It's someone I was vaguely familiar with. It was more Angry Video Game Nerd got me thinking about what style of video I wanted to create. When I first started, it was a lot more skit based, and
Mhm.
a lot more work went into the videos and a lot more burnout. I got like, I don't want to say I got depressed, but it was really sad. You put a lot of work into stuff, and you think you don't think that you're gonna get like super famous and popular and rich from it, but you think that there'd be a natural draw to it that the community would take to, and it's like no, people didn't give a shit, and it was really kind of sad because you put a lot of work into it and it just goes nowhere. But in that, you kind of work through it and find your passion and what you like to do, and I kind of felt my way in the dark through the journey of YouTube of finding what I want to do, what I'm comfortable with, and more importantly than anything, like what I'm good at. And it's easy to me. What I do right now is easy. It's a lot of work, but because I like to do it, it's easy to me. And I know what I'm doing. I know how to do it because I've done it so many times. But if you were to tell me 8 years ago to do what I do in a single day on a video, I'd be like, fuck, there's no way I could do that in just a few hours. What? But I got it down into like such a science right now of like, okay, I write the article, I do the research, I write more of the article, I tie it together nicely, then I start to film, I get my thoughts together, I get everything organized, I reference the article so that I know where I'm at as like a quasi script, and it helps me stay on track and get it out there the way I want it to be. Because and then post editing with B-roll is a way to really make sure the point that you're trying to drive home is there. And the magic of editing saves a lot of that for me. So, and I've gotten really quick at that. It used to take me forever to do it. Now I'm just like, yeah, it's just second nature. So, and I got about like 4 more minutes with you, just a heads up on that.
No, yeah, no, that's great. That's absolutely great.
And
Well,
Video Game Donkey is like very funny. I find him very funny. He's good. Like you'd enjoy him.
oh, uh, yeah, I'm reading Scotty's. He's a little upset that apparently Donkey bashes on RPGs or
Well, I mean,
JRPGs.
you gotta. I agree, but you gotta approach it with the right mindset, knowing that he's literally dunking on the game for comedy's sake. He's not like going out his way to like just make a game sound bad just for the sake of making it sound bad. Like I think,
Mhm.
to me at least, the comedy typically hits home. Usually. I haven't watched him for a while though. I've kind of grown out of it, so maybe it was just a phase.
Yeah, I know. I've kind of stopped watching James too because unfortunately to me, I can see that burnout sort of
Mhm.
thing. And I mean, that's a whole nother rabbit hole going down
Oh, yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
But
Hold on. The
the
4 minutes would not be enough for that one.
yeah, the
'Cause
4 minutes.
I
Absolutely.
agree, I agree. I mean,
Yeah.
he's still good, he's still got it, but yeah, the shtick has kind of run its course, I think, at this
Yeah.
point.
Well, I guess with the 4 minutes we have left, did you feel free to go ahead and plug anything that you have
Oh, no,
going
no,
on?
it's fine. I mean, I don't the thing with me, and I appreciate that too, by the way. I don't know what to ever plug because
Oh.
it's funny. My news gets made by what happens. So I wake up and I just find out what's most interesting to me,
Mhm.
and then I cover that. And sometimes that story is me, which I found a few times. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to talk about it. It has to do with me.
Well, I guess rather than plugging something, where can people find you?
Oh yeah. YouTube.com/SmashJT, SmashJT.com, Twitter or X.com/SmashJT. I mean, I'm around. You can find me pretty much everywhere. Join my Discord. My link is on my YouTube homepage and YouTube, Greg. If you ever want to be in my Discord, I'll
Yeah,
pin there.
absolutely. And I went ahead and I put all that stuff. It should be listed in the description below. We were on YouTube, Rumble, and X today. So if you enjoyed this stream as much as I did, make sure to hit that subscribe button and punch that thumbs up and ring that bell to get notified when I go live. We do the Power Up podcast Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 8 p.m. Central Time, 9 Eastern Time. Then Tuesdays and Thursdays and over the weekend, we do game streaming. That's what I try to do. Smash, appreciate you taking the time. It's out of your busy schedule to just hang with me and allowing me to get to know you a little bit more. And I really appreciate it. And I say, keep up the good work. And again, sorry that you have to deal with a wacko that
Ah, that's
apparently
fine.
has challenged once again physical fighting somewhere. But
Oh yeah, that's I mean, that's turning into a daily thing with her. But no,
yeah,
I appreciate the time, man. This was a lot of fun, and I'm sorry I got to cut it short. But this was a great conversation, and I want to say thank you for having me on. This was a pleasure.
oh, I appreciate it, and I'll definitely would love to have you back on more. And then obviously under less, less constrictions, we can chill out some more and hang out and stuff like that.
Sounds good, man.
All right. Well, thanks again, you guys. You have a good rest of your night. Take care. God bless, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Peace.